Our next presenter is Craig Kemp, and he asks, are you using EdTech effectively? Craig is a keynote speaker, workshop host, and global education consultant. He works with departments, ministries, school leadership, school communities, and educators to understand, design, and implement digital learning solutions and transformations to improve teaching practice and student learning outcomes. Craig has supported schools and organizations across the globe to establish practices, protocols, and guidelines to support the sustainable implementation of technology into the curriculum to add value to student learning. In addition, he works as an advisor with technology vendors, adding value to their products for use in schools. Put your hands together for Craig Kemp.
Hello and welcome to today's session. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. My name is Craig Kemp and I'm based in Singapore. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about how are you using technology to be authentic and purposeful and effective in your day-to-day learning. Let me start by introducing myself a little bit. We've got limited time today, so I want to make sure that we use it to the best of our abilities. If you have a question, please start thinking about those and I'll try to get to them towards the end as well. A little bit about me. I'm originally from New Zealand. I've lived in Singapore now for the past almost 9 years. I've worked in both public and private schools in New Zealand, in Singapore, and worked across the Australian curriculum as well, supporting schools there. I now work as a global EdTech consultant. I used to be an EdTech director in a large school, and I work with schools now as a consultant all over the world to support them in using technology effectively, being authentic and purposeful about their use of technology. And I love connecting and engaging, and I do my learning online. So that number at the bottom, 42,000, relates to the number of people that I'm connected with on Twitter that I learn from and I grow from every day. My contact details are at the bottom there as well. That Linktree link will give you everything that you need to know about me and to be in touch with me. So let's start by talking about educational technology and the current state of it, thanks to our friend and foe, COVID-19. We've had to adapt because we had to. It's not because we chose to, it's because we got forced into the situation where we had to go to remote learning for most of us. And some of us are still in that situation right now. And as a result of that, particularly in private schools, school numbers have changed and is changing. And, teachers, students, parents, we all have mixed views on this. But one of the positive things that have come about because of this is, that parents now realize how hard we work as teachers. Not only do we work 9 till 3 and we have amazing school holidays, like I've been told on many occasions, people's mindsets have changed because they have had to be teachers. They have had to do their day-to-day job, but also support their kids in managing their online learning. And the reality is different now. All of a sudden, teachers have this very tricky, busy job. And I love that. If nothing else comes out of COVID, that's the number one thing I want you to remember, that you are valued and that your job is important, and we all realize that now. Because of COVID, of course, budgets have dropped, but priorities have adapted. The focus has been on professional learning and how do we build the capacity in our people, because that's where it has to start. We have to focus on human resources. And I'm preaching to the converted because you're here with me today. One of the other great things is that EdTech companies have offered their products for free. And as a result of that, there's been a lot of disruption and change. But it's also caused some stress because there's been a lot of new stuff being thrown on us. But for me, the one thing we have to do is think strategy. We need to know our why for integrating technology into our classrooms. And, the question that gets brought up to me a lot is, how do we do this online and remote learning where our kids don't have equitable access to resources? And maybe you're in a privileged position where your school and community and parents have access to technology, but that's not the case for most places around the world. And it starts with countries and governments and ministries saying enough is enough. We have to give our kids devices, and this is where it starts. Singapore has just released a plan to get every student over the age of 12 a device by the end of next year. Amazing. It's a huge investment, but it's an amazing expense to spend on the future of our countries. With this technology, though, also has come some stress. poor strategy 9 times out of 10 is the reason for that. Because schools have thrown technology, thrown solutions, thrown companies at teachers and said, use this, it's going to make life easier. But the reality is that it doesn't, because we haven't thought about how to train our people and support them in using technology authentically and purposefully. We can't be effective with great technology if we don't have time to learn and grow. So one of the things that I've been doing is cleaning up a lot of messes in schools and supporting them in being more effective. And as a consultant, my job is to help you be better in what you're doing. Technology can help us, but we have to think about how to do it, and you just don't have time to do that. So bringing in experts like myself and other people all around the world can help you with that, can help you partner with companies that are supporting you. Companies like Education Perfect, for example, Hello Go World, Firefly Learning, ClanBeat, companies that are actually doing their best to help people be better and do more with their time. Because your school is different to anyone else's school. The people that are listening here today, we're all different. Our context is unique. So we must set a plan and a strategy in place that supports that, because more isn't better. We can't throw more things at this and expect it to be better. That's not the way things work. We have to choose the right tools for the right purpose. So how do we do that? How do we make these effective decisions in our schools? Well, the first thing to do is to know your why. We must understand why we are using technology before we think strategically. So if you don't know your elevator pitch, an elevator pitch is something for you to think about now and after you finish this session. An elevator pitch is if someone jumped in the elevator with you or the lift with you and they said, I'm going up to the top floor. Maybe it takes 30 seconds. And they say to you, hey, Craig, what's your understanding? Why do you use technology in your school? If you can't just do that and tell them, maybe they're an investor, maybe they are the superintendent, the principal, a parent, another teacher, a child. If you can't tell them why you use technology, you shouldn't be using it. So think about that. If you don't know, challenge some colleagues on this as well. It's a great learning activity to do in your school. We're in the situation where we have to budget smarter now because we have less money to go around. But where the money should be going is people, systems, and infrastructure. And if you don't have equitable access to technology and devices, that's where it should go. Make sure that everyone can connect and everyone knows how to connect and everyone has opportunities to learn. And if you need help, ask. We are always here to help people. You know, we're in this blended learning environment, this hybrid system of online and remote learning combined with face-to-face learning for most of us. That is the new normal. We can't say, oh, but this is the way we've always done things. That doesn't exist anymore. Get that out of your head. Think about how you can use technology now and in the future to improve learning and, I think most importantly, save you time to spend the time on things that you can actually make a difference in, and that's where the SAMA model comes in. And I'll explore that now because the SAMA model helps us better understand how and why we can use technology to be effective. And the SAMA model, to give you a little bit of information, but I suggest you go away and do a little bit more research as well. It started and created by a guy named Ruben Putendera, and people often think it's a ladder, but it's not. It doesn't start from the bottom and work its way up incrementally. SAMA model is a way of thinking, a way of doing. It's a framework for integrating technology. So if you're using this in the best possible way, every time you use a solution, you think to yourself, is this modifying and redefining learning? Or am I just enhancing learning? Or is it just a substitution? A substitution is, I used to use a textbook for my math class, now I use an ebook or an online PDF. There's no change to learning. It's just a direct substitution where you're using technology in a way that you used to use a paper book. It's no different. So think about when you use technology solutions, how do you modify? How do you actually enhance learning to significantly redesign the task? How do you create new learning experiences that were previously inconceivable? You couldn't do that without technology. That's where we should be heading, making and creating. not just consuming. One of our big focuses at my last school at Stanford was to create a culture of creation and a culture of care around the use of technology. And we created, and this diagram was created by Adam Torrens, and you can follow him on Twitter as well. But we gave our teachers these tools and training in these tools. And if they wanted to do other tools or learn other things, that was on them. They could do that. But we wanted to make sure we had a core set, sustainable across all of our teachers, of our 5 to 7 year olds here, of these 12 apps that allowed our kids to make and create and do better, actually allowed them to do these things. So we taught our teachers, we trained them so that they could use these in their classrooms to support learning. And upper elementary, for our 8 to 12 year olds, how do we help these kids go into middle school where they need to use tools effectively and efficiently to help them be on time and effective in their learning? So we had to teach them skills. We had to teach them how to use a spreadsheet, to use a document processor, to create videos, to make and create solutions and share them, how to code. All of these things we had to explicitly teach our teachers so that they could integrate them into their teaching and learning programs. So that's something that's a really important part of that strategic plan to using technology effectively. The other thing for me is, how do you use technology positively? How do you create this culture of positive learning and care in this world where we're online, it feels like 24/7? Well, for me, it's these things. We make and we create. We provide opportunities for our kids to make and create, not just consume content. We try new things and we take risks. As teachers, we should be taking risks, not just saying that to our kids. We should be trying new things as well. We should be connecting and engaging our kids with people from all over the world, and we should be doing that as well on platforms like Twitter, for example, or Facebook. A great one for kids to connect and engage for free in a safe and secure environment with a focus on empathy is Empatico. And I encourage you to take a look, Empatico, Empatico. And you'll find it's free to sign up, and you can connect your kids to people from all over the world. And of course, we need to be safe and positive with our online interactions. We should have a digital citizenship program in place that supports our learners, not just our students, but our teachers and our parents and our leaders as well, in using technology to be safe, secure, and efficient. We have to make sure we train our community. It's not just on us to teach our teachers and our kids, but it's really important that everyone is in this together. We must train everyone. One of the things that I've done as a positive contribution globally in sharing EdTech and what I do on a day-to-day basis is I've developed a free 30-minute podcast, and it's released every Friday morning, Southern Hemisphere time, Thursday evening, Northern Hemisphere. And it's every week, 30 minutes of free learning. I talk to EdTech experts from all over the world. I share a tool every week that impacts my world and I've used in the classroom before. I talk about, strategies, ways of learning. I talk about the things that I get paid to do in schools. I give that to you for free to help give you an insight into how you can start doing this before you need that extra external help. So check that out. It's free. Hopefully it's good learning for you. I've got hundreds of people from all over the world listening to it every week, and I'd love for you to be on board as well. You can find it on any podcast channel by searching the EdTech Chat podcast, or in the link below, bottom right hand corner, linktree/Mr. Kemp NZ, and you'll find the links to all of the podcasts there. Because we're in this situation now where it's not okay to say this is the way I've always done things. We're in this time of constant change where that change is rapid. The ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn is a critical skill for all of us. Mistakes are okay, and we have to do that. We have to try new things. But as a leader and a learner, how do you embrace that? Think about your school context right now and think about how you would embrace this whole culture of learning to unlearn and then relearning. And if you're a leader in a school, I actively encourage you to take the next step and talk about this with your teachers. And maybe a good starting point is this quote from Alvin Toffler. The illiterate of the 21st century are not those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that's something that I want you to think about and take away from today. One of the things that I wanted to continue on with here excuse me, is the idea of these skills that we need to be successful in the world we live in now and the future. And this comes from the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, a significant research study that came out in December of 2018 that shows the skills for 2022. They're skills like creativity, initiative, problem solving, creative thinking, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, leadership, social influence, ideation, all of these things. And I want you to look at these skills and go, do I explicitly teach these to my kids? Do I integrate this into my teaching and learning program? And if the answer is no to a lot of these, then maybe we're doing things wrong. The research and studies show us that these are the things our kids are going to need to be successful in the future. And we have to make sure we do that. So take this away, have a think about it and talk to your teachers about these skills. Maybe create an activity where they can talk about whether they are using these in their classroom. Because Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. It's not what you're doing every day, it's the understanding of your why. Do you know why you're doing it and implementing it? And in Simon's book, Start With The Why, he talks about how everything starts at that epicenter. Before you can do the how and understand that how and actually implement the what, which is the doing part, you must know your why. Start with that. So start with that statement of why. Why am I using technology today in my classroom? Why should I develop a strategy for technology in my school? Why do I need the support of external people to help me develop that? It's time, it's efficiency, it's being effective, it's actually impacting learning. So start with that and move forward from there. And it actually starts with you. Building capacity in yourself by staying relevant. And I said before, I'm preaching to the converted because you're here learning with me today. I'm sitting here in Singapore with a Kiwi accent and you're sitting somewhere around the world listening to this live with me as we learn and grow together. But you have to stay up to date. It's not about learning the latest trends and the latest things, but it's about understanding the latest pedagogies and impacting those and influencing them in your school and seeking out opportunities to learn, just like you've done today. But more importantly, in your school, how do you take those opportunities and actually create opportunities for you and others to learn and grow together? One of those things is by building a professional learning network. I said before, I use Twitter, I use Facebook, I use LinkedIn, I sometimes use Instagram, but social sometimes isn't amazing for me. That face-to-face connection is what I need. So professional learning environments, face-to-face, in a meeting or in a school environment. You have those at your disposal. Use them. Create and share resources. Don't just consume them. And at the end of the day, all of this starts with you. It's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. You have to create these opportunities for yourself. And before I get to Q&A and open up for you to ask me any questions, and you can throw those down below, just remember that we're the last generation to understand life before the internet. The last generation to understand life before a smartphone. The last generation to understand how to connect without using social media. The last generation to be fluent translators of what it was like before technology and now after technology. The last generation, and I'm guilty of this, to wonder each morning what you should do instead of picking up your phone or your smart device and looking at your notifications and wondering what you've missed. And that's sort of become very true in the last few weeks with the release of the Social Dilemma documentary. If you haven't seen that, I highly encourage you to take a look. It's something well worth exploring. Actually, in the last couple of weeks, I did a little bit of a deep dive into the documentary on my podcast. So it's definitely something worth checking out. And my last thing for you is to plan with the future in mind. You must know your why if you want to build that culture, build that strategy, and stay ahead of the game to be effective with the use of technology in your school. Because if you don't stay up to date, you will be left behind. And that's the reality here. Technology is not going anywhere. Let's use technology to be effective, efficient, and sustainable, but let's not get left behind. Let's not jump off this train. Let's go forward together. Before you share your questions, make sure you stay in touch with me. Here are my contact details. Please do not hesitate to ask me. I'm always more than happy to help. Please, please, please jump on board, follow the podcast, ask me questions. If you've got a question now, throw it below and I'll do my best to answer that.
Thank you, Craig. That was very insightful. Participants, up next we have our roundtable discussions, so be sure to grab yourself a spot.